How's it going, everybody? Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer here on Wrestling Observer Radio, November 11, 2014. Figure4online.com/WrestlingObserver.com. Last night on Observer Radio, we mentioned that Jeff Jarrett had a big announcement to make today. And the big announcement is that our guest at this time, as they say in WWE, Jim Ross, is back doing pro wrestling announcing. He is heading to Japan for the January 4th Tokyo Dome Wrestle Kingdom event. And Jim, are you excited to head to Japan?
Yeah, I'm very excited. You know, I didn't really think that I would be back in this particular arena, so it was kind of a surprise. I think the gig kind of found me, and I found it, and but it was a unique synergy. But you know, I'm very excited about it because I've been watching the New Japan product, and I like it. And that always helps you in broadcasting something, is to like what you're seeing so you can emotionally invest. And I've really enjoyed watching their product. I've got a long way to go to be prepared, but that's one of my things I really enjoy doing. So I'm pumped. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go celebrate. I'm going to actually celebrate my birthday while I'm there. So
really,
that's not going over real big in my household right now. But
now,
I tell her the same thing the mafia guys tell their wives. You knew the life I chose when you married me.
That's right. Now, you on the show previously had talked about how you were watching some New Japan, and obviously since leaving WWE, you've done some boxing, you've done a little bit of mixed martial arts, you've done some other sports as well. And take us through kind of your preparations, what you plan on doing to get ready for the Tokyo Dome.
Well, it's several pronged. I will rely on those that know infinitely more about the New Japan product than do I at this point in time, and pick brains and ask for feedback and ask for information. I will watch, I'll be on YouTube a lot watching the product. I plan on watching their last pay-per-view from a few days ago, sometime this week. And then I'll go online, and once I get the card, and I think the card's pretty well done.
The top matches.
I'll try to find out, all I can that I can find out online. So between talking to people, watching the shows, and doing my due diligence online, that's kind of that covers the gambit of it. I don't know who and then once they hire a color broadcaster, then I'll join that person in the preparation as well, so that we can share the same information and be on the same page. Because this is a unique deal. You got to be able to. One has to be able to introduce to the English-speaking audience that may not be hardcore fans of New Japan who the competitors are. And you got to be able to do it in a soundbite sequence so that once the match starts, you're focusing on the match and not on, just a lot of background information. Sometimes you can work it in, obviously, but you really want to call the match, and that's why I'm excited about calling a wrestling match again.
We've got a video actually up on the front page right now if you haven't seen it yet. It is the trailer for the Dome show, and you did the voiceovers on it. If anybody hasn't checked it out yet, it's up on the front page right now of WrestlingObserver.com. When did you sign the deal, and when did you do these voiceovers?
I did the voiceovers last Tuesday night while I was after I recorded my podcast. And which just drops tonight, is with Alex Greenfield, former SmackDown head writer, and he is classic. I mean, you talk about a guy that's unfiltered and doesn't give a damn. It is it's compelling, it's hilarious, it'll make you shake your head. It's really, really funny. But that's the Ross report tonight. So after I did some work on that last week, I read the copy for Jeff and his company, under the context that if we cut a deal, it's yours. if we don't get our deal done, it's dead. So and I did that, hoping that we could come to terms. I actually had my first conversation with Jeff Jarrett yesterday, since he left WWE, I think 1999.
I think it was 99, yeah.
Yeah, so we actually spoke yesterday for the first time in, 15 years. So I've been letting my manager, Barry Bloom, handle all the negotiations, and I stayed completely out of it and didn't have one conversation with Jeff, and what I've been saying on my blogs or on Twitter has been the truth. We did not have any conversations. So he sent me an email, said, hey, I know I'm talking to Barry about this deal, but would you we'll do this commercial and the chance that we get this deal done? And I said, sure. So that's how that worked out. If people are trying to do the math, how could they have done all this so quick? We have not signed a contract yet. The lawyers are still working over a couple of lawyer points. I think we're done on that. So as we record this, the contract is awaiting my signature. But I have given my word, and that's good enough. There's no 11th hour issues. I will be at ringside, which is another thing I wanted a hand in who I was going to work with. I wanted some say, and I wanted some say in where I was going to work from, because I want to be at ringside. I want to be surrounded by these fans and feel that again. To me, and it may sound weird to some people, but it's special to me, and I want to have a special show. So being at ringside will help facilitate that. And I need to work with somebody that will work as hard preparing for the show as I'm going to, and take it as seriously as I'm going to. So I don't know who that person is going to be yet. We've got some people on the radar, but it'll be Jeff's final decision, but he and I will talk before that decision is made, because it's just smart business to say, what do you think about working with this guy? You want the best team possible to go out and deliver the goods.
Now, one of the things here, this whole show is a trial in the sense of it's a shot in the dark. Nobody knows how it's going to do. I don't think there's any great expectations, but I think that the idea is there's going to be a core of people that are going to get it. How big that is, we don't know, but and then perhaps you'll get some people that will tune in just out of curiosity or just whatever. There's not as many wrestling pay-per-views as there were in the past. And perhaps, if it goes well, I mean, I know their idea is to do them more often. I mean, so do you look at it as this as like your tryout, or let's just say theoretically that it works out well enough to where you go, okay, we'll do the 4 big shows a year, just throwing out a number. And it could be 6, it could be whatever. I mean, are you like thinking maybe we'll do that, or are you going like, I want to do it once it's the Tokyo Dome, but I'm not really into, making it a regular gig?
Well, I would have to have a explanation of what a regular gig would be, and like you said, it could be 4 shows, it could be 6 shows a year. If it was manageable and I had fun doing it, I'm not anti-wrestling. My leaving WWE was not exactly ideal, but I was never angry at the business that made me a living for 40 years, and I've been a fan of it for 50. I still loved it. So if I have fun and they like what I do, and I feel like I can still get the job done, I'd always be open to talk about more events. But right now, I'm only concerned about January 4th, and not about, obviously I want it to have as many pay-per-view buys as possible. I want it to be a success. But I'm more concerned about the things that I can control, and I can control how good or not the broadcast goes from the announcer side. And that's really kind of all I can put on my plate at this time. It's a good thing to think about. So I'm looking at this as it. I'm looking at, hey, look, I don't know how the relationship with Jeff and New Japan's going to work out. Hope it does great. I'm like you. I don't know how high the expectations are. I do know that they've cleared all the major cable and satellite companies. They are allegedly going to get ample promotional time on the cable systems to promote the event. So that'll help because they don't have a weekly TV show to promote it, which doesn't help. So I'm like you, Dave. I don't have any expectations at all. I don't know if it'll do 5,000 buys or 50,000 buys. I have no idea.
Now, from your standpoint, because this really is an interesting show in the sense of you're not just broadcasting a show, you're introducing a product. It's right. Two different things, and you also have two different audiences because there's going to be an audience, and it's probably a fairly substantial audience that may know the names, may not even know the names, doesn't know who these guys are. There'll be some that know them from YouTube that will also order, and there'll be the regulars who are completely familiar. But you've got to broadcast for a bunch of different audiences. It's kind of a tricky thing because one audience will think, oh, I already know this stuff, and then another audience is going to not know anything, and you've got to introduce 24 or so wrestlers or whatever the number is going to end up being. I mean, there'll be some that people do know if Jeff Jarrett's on the show or AJ, but for the most part, for a lot of the audience, these are names that they may not even know the name. They certainly don't know the histories. They don't know it's like you've got like a 3-pronged kind of gear thing that you've got to hit, I guess.
Yeah, I think that my philosophy has always been that you can't broadcast the hardcores that know everything are on the peripheral. As far as the broadcast is concerned, you've got to broadcast to and I wish there was a better term. I just can't think of it right off the top of my head. But you've kind of got to broadcast to the lowest common denominator, the people that are new, the people that are trying it out. They're sampling for whatever reason. There's, like you said, there's not a lot of wrestling pay-per-views. Maybe they got a couple of bucks saved up. They can buy the show. But for whatever reason they're buying it. I'm obligated to tell them who these people are and why they are good, or what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, where they came from, what's their background, and I've got to do that. So that will be done. And if it's offensive to some of the diehards who already know it, then I can apologize now. But that's the way we're going to approach it. But it's not going to be this elongated soliloquy of we're going to talk about these guys' background in sound bites, so that by the time the match starts, as it evolves, and before the 1, 2, 3, you've got a pretty good idea who these people are, and where they came from, and so forth, and who they remind us of. There's guys. You look at different guys, and the more I watch it, the more I see other guys that I've called matches for that they remind me of. So there'll be some of that, but you got to go with that lower the new people and make sure that they're tuned in. And if they're tuned in, then the others are, and so then it should work out to be a pretty good show. I want to concentrate on calling the matches, but we've got to filter in who you're seeing and why you're seeing it, and all that. But that can be done in sound bites. That can be done on entrances. That can be done on a side headlock that someone's applying, and the movement is static for a moment, and you have to be prepared to get that one piece of information in. So there's a science to it, but that's how I would approach it: is broadcast to the new fans instead of, say, the lowest common denominator. I don't mean that by intellectually, but just product knowledge-wise, the new people deserve to be informed, especially if they bought the pay-per-view, and that's what we plan on doing. So that'll be the focus.
One other thing that I think people don't know is that you have been to wrestling at the Tokyo Dome before, and you have broadcasted wrestling at the Tokyo Dome before back, it was over 20 years ago, but it's not unfamiliar territory to you, even though it's a new generation of wrestlers.
All right. Well, you're right, and that was a great trip. WCW trip with Flair and Fujinami. I know we're on that card, and it was a different era, a different time. Tony Schiavone and I went over and did that show, and did a lot of the wraparounds, and some work there, and then we did the voiceover of the event back in Atlanta. And that was one of my big issues. I was not interested in doing the show in a studio in Los Angeles. I had no desire to go into a voiceover studio and not be able to tap into the energy and the ambiance of the Tokyo Dome and the fans that are there for, what is this, 20, how many years is this January 4th event going on? 20.
This is the 24th.
24th year. It's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
And I want to be there. I want to be a part of that. I want to be at the game, at the event. So that was a big issue there. And I even talked to Barry about, I don't want to be, I hearken back to when the announcers on Raw are by the stage, as close to the friggin' pyro as you could get, so everybody could get their rocks off the gorilla position when the pyro went off and the loud boom, you're sitting on top of it. And then, of course, you singe the back of your hair with all the pyro. But there were some there that thought that was really entertaining. But nonetheless, I didn't want to find myself in a left field someplace, literally in left field. I want to be at ringside.
You better watch for Takashi Iizuka.
Better explain that joke.
Yeah, because well, it's not. He doesn't do it anymore. But they did a gimmick for about 2 years where their lead announcer and Iizuka on every pay-per-view, he would come up and basically tear his shirt off and paint him.
Oh yeah, I don't think I have to worry about that.
No, I don't think so.
You mentioned wanting to be there for the Tokyo Dome, and New Japan. This is just speculating here, but they in September and October ran 3 pay-per-views in about a 3-week period, and if they signed some sort of deal where the New Japan pay-per-views were going to air in the United States somewhere. New Japan is kind of talking about their own network sort of deal. And they wanted you to be the voice of the company. Are you open to the idea? Do you need to be at every show? Or if they were going to do a 3-show and 3-week period, would you be open to doing some of those in the studio here in this country?
Yeah, I'm open. Brian, I am an independent businessman. I'm an entrepreneur. So I would certainly listen to any proposal. I'm doing a lot of things, but this is certainly that came out of the blue. We're actively engaging in several boxing events, and I really want to pursue that. I had a blast doing that little pay-per-view with Chael. We had great chemistry, and I realized I have a lot to learn, but I had fun doing it, and it would be fun to get in that learning process. And our style would be different than anybody else's because we're different personalities. But so I got a lot of things on the plate, but I would certainly be open to listening. Sure, it's like you guys. You guys are entrepreneurs. You're independent contractors. You got your own business. You don't ever not listen. You may not do it, but you certainly want to listen and not just say, no, I don't even want to hear the details.
Do you have any kind of a feeling? Because in a weird sense, and you and I talked about this one before, actually. As far as New Japan Pro Wrestling and Mid-South Wrestling are not the same, but there are elements of the Mid-South Wrestling that you cut your teeth on in the 80s. As far as I guess the seriousness of the product would probably be the one. The seriousness, the logic, legitimacy.
Yep.
You're doing. Didn't do this product, but a lot of people who don't realize it is that before you were in WWE, people go, oh, JR, WWE announcing, it's just so different. You actually did a product probably as close from an American standpoint. Your product or the St. Louis product were probably as close as what this product currently is, in the sense of, you're not going to be foreign to a match where each move means something in the big picture type of thing.
Yeah. I'm not going to be foreign, no pun intended, Dave.
Yes, that's right.
No you're right. There are elements of the psychology of what the wrestlers execute in the ring in New Japan that are very reminiscent to the same philosophy that Bill Watts had in Mid-South and UWF. I see some of those longer matches remind me of when we were doing the 2-hour Houston wrestling show. Some of the elements, just a feel. It's not specific little things. It's a general feel of the philosophy of taking the business seriously, treating it as a shoot, and giving the athletes the respect that they have earned, and not ignoring what they're doing. So I think there's a lot of that there, and that was, I've talked to a lot of guys. If you ask Steve Austin, hey Steve, you think JR should ever go back to doing the product that's presented today? He would tell you, hell no. But if there was an opportunity to go back and do wrestling like the Mid-South, or even some of the stuff in the late 80s in WCW with the NWA, when Steamboat was there and Terry Funk was there and Flair was there, to go do a tag match with Doc and Gordy versus the Steiners, that's pretty damn good stuff.
Yeah.
So there were some times not all the time, but there was a good part of the time in WCW where we had that same feel. We take it seriously. We wrestle. They lay their stuff in. They're trying to be logical and use sound logic and psychology. So it's not that I'm going to be foreign to that product. But even if I wasn't experienced in that genre and that specific style, by the time I get through watching, wearing out my YouTube, and by the time I get through picking everybody's brain that'll listen to me and doing my research, I'm going to be ready to rock and roll. Because it's new. See, that's the thing about it. I'm going to be calling matches for guys for the bulk of that whole card that I've never called a match for in my whole career. So it's new again. It's fresh. So that's kind of what I'm excited about. But when you talked earlier about the pay-per-views and will they do business going forward and how this business model works, hey, man, I don't know. I care, but I'm not engaged in that. It's just I got to go ready to call wrestling, and that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to approach it like this is it, because I wasn't looking for this gig when I got it. And I'm very, very happy that Jeff and I were able to talk, and that finally, and that he and Barry Bloom were able to work out a deal that everybody could live with. So I'm very, very excited about it, and I'm just going to look at this the simplest way I can, guys. I got one show to do on January 4th. Get your ass ready, be ready to roll, go give it all you got, and have fun again. Have fun. It's going to be. I told somebody today, text me, that remained nameless, that I felt like a kid again, just because I'm looking forward to calling a wrestling show and not an entertainment show. I'm not probably a very good entertainment announcer, to be honest with you. But I think I can still hold my own in the other side, and when the wrestling's more, more straightforward and realistically reality based. It's a shoot to me, and that's how I want to call it.
The show is January 4th. It is available on pay-per-view. We've got a big trailer up on the front page right now if you want to hear Jim Ross in action again, hyping up the New Japan Tokyo Dome show. And obviously at JR's BBQ on Twitter, and I know you've got a podcast coming up tonight. Is that with the Hardys?
No, the podcast tonight is, I recorded it last week. I'm a week ahead. So tonight's podcast won't have anything about this New Japan deal because I recorded it last week. And the my interview is with Alex Greenfield.
That's right, Greenfield.
Former lead writer, head writer of SmackDown, who actually wasn't fired, and he quit. But he had a real combative relationship with upper management. He had a very interesting relationship with guys like Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit and John JBL, because I believe that Alex was one of the first actual Hollywood writers that WWE hired. So he wasn't really welcomed into the fold of working with the talent like one would hope, but he ended up becoming an ally to a lot of guys and had some and really created some unique storylines when SmackDown was doing well. So not that it's not doing well now, but it was doing really well when Alex was there. But he had a lot of issues that roadblocks in his view. He really expresses himself unfiltered, and it was like he'd been waiting on this opportunity to talk about his run there, which I think was around 2007, 8, 9 area, something like that, somewhere in that neighborhood.
I think it was a little
but
bit
he's
earlier.
funnier than hell. He's outspoken, and he's got some great stories.
Yeah, he's been on the show here a few times. He's very good. So check out JR's podcast. Podcast 1 is the place to go. JR's Barbecue, the website. Everybody knows all that information. And Jim, thanks so much for doing the show today, and best of luck on January 4th.
Thanks, guys. I look forward to it, and I appreciate everybody's been so nice. The Twitter stuff. Somebody sent me a tweet, said, "You're trending." Wow, I'm trending.
That's right. It's big
and
time.
I also got to go to the grocery store today, so I'm happy. But it's big news, and I appreciate that, and I hope that everybody that says they're going to buy the show will follow through. We're not going to disappoint them on our end. So, and you guys watch the new Japan product. I'm going to catch up with you as best I can.
Yeah.
But Dave, especially, it's a great product.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I got to tell you this, on Friday night at I watched it from 11:45 to 4:15 a.m., which was not my plan, but it just worked out that way. And so what actually happened the next morning, my son was here, and he was going like, "What the hell was going on last night?" And I was watching Japanese wrestling on the on the Japanese pay-per-view, and he just goes, "Man, you were making so much noise." It was like in those final couple of matches, especially the Ishii-Goto match. It was like you talked about your childhood. That match brought me back to my childhood and something. I mean, my God.
But how good is that, man? Really?
Yeah.
At our stage of the game, you look for those moments, those bucket list emotions that you can regather, and you can feel them again. And that's what I'm sensing with this journey to Tokyo. It's kind of retro in a way. The product is psychologically sound. I mean, I'm getting more and more excited about it. I'm thinking it's going to be a great experience. And this morning, when all these tweets started coming in, he was like, "Let's go do it now." But I'm not ready now. But I'll be ready on January 4th. I guarantee you. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I appreciate you guys having me on and talking about it.
Well, thanks so much, and of course, thanks everybody for listening. We shall talk to you again after a while.